Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast with me, Imperial Dane. We have for you today a 1 versus 1 on Angoville. Yes, indeed, Angoville. The wonderful classic of the 1 versus 1 auto-match maps. And of course, as you all know, nice winding road, lovely farmland to the west, a few farm buildings in the east alongside some heavy cars, which certainly protects the southern victory point from any incursion from the north, although at the same time it can become an obstacle if you're the Wehrmacht player in some cases, since it can allow for your enemies to close in with you. And of course we have the high yield munitions and fuel points in the corners of the west and east. And of course we have this little crossroads, which is usually a really excellent spot to mine, since it will prevent any movement from east to west or from south to north and vice versa. So let's have a look at who is in charge of this battle. We have Major Knadys of the 21st Panzer Division, ready to take on the Americans of Captain Extraneus of the 28th Infantry Division, possibly with elements of the 3rd Armored Division ready to support them and break through here at Angoville and further into France. Let us see how this fight will go. Who will win? The brave soldiers of the fatherland or the plucky American GIs? Wehrmacht quarters going up for Knadys, and from the Americans we will most likely see nothing. Apparently opting to go directly out with the engineers and setting up a second engineer team, probably to get a barracks up then. We'll have to see how that goes. Yes, indeed, a barracks and not a weapon support center, not something I'd recommend either for most 1 versus 1 matches. A bit of pleasant exchange between the two players. Always good to have that, always nice. Asking for level, apparently a bit curious about who he's facing. Low level apparently, although again some people are known to be a bit how shall we say, dishonest and claim they're low and then just of course not be so, but let's not judge. Let the battlefield speak for them. Numerous engineers out, in fact 4 teams of engineers, certainly a bold and aggressive start, and not a single rifleman team. That's certainly aggressive. Although at the same time, if caught wrong-footed by the Grenadiers of the 21st Panzer Division, it might end up badly, since engineers aren't really combat troops. And in particular, this vast investment into manpower, into engineers, will certainly delay any riflemen in greater numbers for some time. But let us see how this evolves. Certainly a lot of territory has been seized on both sides by Extraneus. Grenadiers closing in on the engineers. Yes, indeed, the first shots going off with pioneers moving in from the west. And we see a possible full rout from the entire western flank. Or not, perhaps. Yes, indeed, full rout. Extraneus apparently having decided he can't take on the full might of the Wehrmacht at this moment, using only engineers. He pulls back and but now has some riflemen on the field ready to take the fight to the crowds. But he has already managed to secure a large portion of the eastern half, having already gotten the high yield fuel and munition points, in fact. So certainly not bad. And now we see the engineers and riflemen performing an assault, going to catch these Grenadiers who revealed themselves by seizing this point off. Closing in via cover, certainly not a bad plan. And now the Grenadiers out in open terrain, not good, although at the same time Extraneus could have certainly moved his engineers much closer for every inch, since submachine guns are pretty much only good up close, in particular the ones on the engineer troops and pioneers and such. Quickly grabbing cover as Grenadiers are using this old battered pickup truck for cover, and looks a bit grim for the American troops getting fired on from all sides. Engineer team has been felled by accurate fire from the Grenadiers, and now further pioneers are rushing in to support. And the Americans are once more pulling back, and we see a machine gun emplacement going up. A bit of a bold move or at the same time perhaps a bit overly defensive this early into the game when he only has 3 engineer teams and a rifleman team. Could certainly end up biting him in the arse if he is not careful, since it will prevent him from having any mobility for a long time and prevent any actual counterattacks against the Germans, since most American players really should focus on being aggressive when facing a Wehrmacht player, although then again I'd always recommend people to be aggressive rather than defensive. Being aggressive means you can choose where to fight. Flamethrowers going up on 1 engineer team, 2nd rifleman team joining in, probably going to make another attack right up here, although perhaps going through here and trying a slightly different approach could yield greater results, or perhaps from both points. But that is not what he chooses. Instead, a slightly staggered assault standing out in the middle of the road. Bad choice. Should have tried to move in as many men as possible right from the beginning. Instead, the Volksgrenadiers can't get away without any casualties at all, except this unfortunate fellow who looks quite uncomfortable. In fact, it's the squad leader, having dropped his Sturmgewehr. And we see the Volksgrenadiers once more using this old pickup truck for cover. MG42 team covering them while a slightly damaged Volksgrenadier team is holding the line. Engineers continuing up the northeastern path, and we see a weapon support center going up for Extraneus. Certainly interesting. Not a lot of American players that do this. Mines taking out some riflemen and deeply wounding them, while MG42 fire rakes the rest, and we see a sniper moving in as well. Heavy focus on the initial phase of the Wehrmacht battle plan, we can see that. And we'll see something going up from Extraneus. I wonder what. A heavy machine gun, certainly not bad. Can be used on the offensive to pin down the defenders and prevent them from moving around or out of any particular type of cover, allowing you to flank them. We see the Volksgrenadiers once more trying on these points. MG42 moving in closer while the sniper stalks the battlefield looking for prey to knock out. Attempt at harassing this vital strategic point succeeds, although the engineers scare off the pioneers before they manage to completely seize it. We see the first heavy machine gun team out for the Americans. 30 caliber, water-cooled version. There was also a air-cooled version, which is the one used on jeeps. And we see the riflemen now opting for an eastern approach as well, having decided they're running right into the enemy lines, where he's probably expecting it. It's not the best idea ever. Certainly can only agree with him on that one. Still plenty of engineers with flamethrowers. A few rifleman teams, although not many, and a heavy machine gun team setting up here to overwatch this road. And we also see Knadys has laid down a mine here, certainly going to act as a defensive measure, and certainly make any movement across this spot difficult and painful. Seizing this building and apparently adopting a very defensive posture right away, not something I'd recommend. Could certainly have tried to push on the troops of the 21st and perhaps staggered them a bit, taking some further territory, but at the same time he does possess the better ground with 2 victory points. So certainly not all bad. And we see a mortar team out. 60 centimeter, or 60 millimeter, not centimeter, I think. That would be a lot. But 60 millimeter mortar, smaller than the German, but also a bit faster, or at least it's going to be a bit faster to pack up and move around with the next patch. And we see Knadys' troops preparing for an assault. Snipers opening fire on the riflemen in this building, but still not moving. We see the mortar sitting up, and we've spotted something going on, and it's probably going to open fire on the last confirmed position of German troops. And we also see grenadiers out for Knadys. The creek barracks have been set up, and the sniper has revealed himself. Only 1 kill though for the moment, and we see a squad leader writhing in pain on the middle of the road. Troops moving in on the American position, suffering heavy losses as they attack right out in the open, although German flamethrowers are doing their apart as well. And we see a grenade going off on the Americans. BARs having been researched, and we see mortar fire trying to hit on the German troops as well, although misses. Riflemen pulling back as well, having averted German assault and moving back for reinforcements. Germans still holding the western part, all quiet. The sniper with the scoped Gewehr 43 skulking about. Not a lot else. And we see the Volksgrenadiers, who of course actually didn't fight during the Normandy battles, but can be easily used to represent, in fact, the low quality troops, including Osttruppen, which were Russians and Poles and other troops from Eastern Europe who decided it was more fun to actually be in France rather than a German prison camp, and of course some other low quality troops of fortress garrison troops which weren't really that good and hadn't received much training either. Bet you did not know that. So yes, can be used to represent a bit of each with a bit of imagination. And we see the Germans once more preparing for a counter-attack, or an attack generally. Flamethrower team knocked out completely, a catastrophic burst of the one flamethrower tank causing the other pioneer to go up in flames. And we see the grenadiers moving out in the open. Not good, not good. Flamethrowers going off, although against flamethrowers being out in the open is in fact the best choice, but otherwise against riflemen with BARs you don't want to be out in the open. Further flamethrowers moving in on the grenadiers, taking cover behind the old garage. Engineers looking to be in peril might die themselves. Yes, indeed. Engineer team out, although grenadiers will have to pull out since the Americans are using cover and this building for strong defensive positions. This side having numerous windows, which means the Americans can get as much firepower out as possible without taking much damage, since buildings provide 50% accuracy and damage resistance bonuses.
Enemy unit under attack.
Pioneer team knocked out, and we also see a half-track has moved in to provide fire support and reinforcement point for the Germans, although no mortars to knock out the Americans of these buildings or even try to perform counter-artillery duties on this mortar. But we'll have to see where this goes.
Grenades have arrived.
And we hear a report that grenades have been given to the American troops, making them much more